Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the strange metal object float in space near Jupiter. The thing was about the size of a school bus, but its surface was covered in patterns that hurt to look at. Sparks flew from broken parts, and a green liquid leaked from cracks in its hull. "Sir, I'm picking up life signs," said Ryan Phillips from his station. The young man had been their communications officer for 3 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "Whatever's in there, it's alive but not doing well." Jake nodded and turned to Dr. Lisa Carter, who was already putting on her medical gear. "Doc, you ready for this?" Lisa smiled, but her hands were shaking just a little. "As ready as anyone can be for first contact with aliens, I guess." The alien ship had crashed into their path 2 hours ago. The New Horizon was on a routine supply mission to the mining station on Europa when their sensors picked up the unknown vessel. Protocol said they should report it and wait for orders, but the life signs were getting weaker by the minute. "Bring us alongside," Jake ordered, nice and slow. The ship moved closer to the alien vessel. Through the windows, they could see movement inside. Something was definitely alive in there, but it wasn't moving much. "Sir, I'm getting some kind of signal," Ryan said, pressing his headphones closer to his ears. "It's not like anything I've heard before, almost like dot, dot music, but wrong somehow." Jake made his decision. "We're going aboard. Lisa, grab your medical kit. Ryan, bring the universal translator. Maybe we can figure out what they're trying to." 20 minutes later, they were floating in spacesuits toward the alien ship. The hull was made of some kind of metal that seemed to shift colors in the light. Jake found what looked like a door and pressed his hand against it. To his surprise, it opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the ship was filled with a thick blue mist that made everything look like a dream. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, and the air smelled like flowers and electricity. But what caught their attention was the creature lying on the floor. It was about 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin that looked like it was made of silver glass. Its eyes were huge and dark, and it was breathing in short, painful gasps. Green blood pooled around its body from several wounds. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered. She knelt beside the creature and opened her medical kit. "It's hurt bad. I don't know if I can help it." The alien's eyes focused on her, and it made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. Ryan stepped forward with the translator, but the device just made angry beeping sounds. "The translator can't figure out its language," Ryan said. "But I think it's trying to thank us." Lisa was already working, using her human medical training on a completely alien body. She had no idea what the creature's blood was supposed to look like, but she could see where it was bleeding out. She pressed bandages against the wounds and started in 4-line, hoping that basic first aid would work. "This is impossible," she muttered as she worked. "I don't know its biology, its blood type, nothing. I'm just guessing." But somehow her guesses were working. The alien's breathing got stronger, and its eyes became more alert. It reached out with one of its 4 hands and touched Lisa's arm gently far away on a massive ship hidden behind Jupiter's moons. Dr. Zethkara was watching everything through hidden cameras. She was a scientist from the Galactic Council, and she had been studying Earth for years. But she had never seen anything like this. "Elder Vostai," she called to her superior. "You need to see this." The elder was a being that looked like a walking tree made of crystal. He moved slowly to the viewing screen and watched as the human doctor worked on the injured council scout. "Impossible," he said in a voice like breaking glass. "That human has no knowledge of our biology. The scout should be dead by now." On the screen, Lisa was still working. She had figured out that the alien had something like a heart, but it had 3 chambers instead of 4. She was using a human heart monitor to check its rhythm, adjusting the settings until it seemed to work. "Sir," said another council member, "our scout is not just alive. It's getting better. The human is actually healing it." Elder Vostai watched in silence as Lisa continued her work. She was using tools and techniques meant for humans, but somehow making them work on an alien body. It should have been impossible. "And look at this." Dr. Zethkara pointed to another screen. "The communications officer is trying to talk to our scout without any common language. Watch." On the screen, Ryan was sitting next to the alien, making simple gestures and sounds. He would point to himself and say, "Human," then point to the alien and wait. The alien seemed to understand and made a sound like singing crystal. "It's working," Dr. Zethkara whispered. "They're actually communicating." The alien pointed to itself and made the crystal sound again. Then it pointed to Ryan and tried to copy his word human, but it came out sounding like human. Elder. Bastai felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. These humans were doing things that should have taken years of study and preparation. They were making contact with an alien species and succeeding, using nothing but instinct and luck. "Call the full council," he said quietly. "We need to discuss Earth immediately." Back on the alien ship, Lisa had managed to stop the bleeding and get the creature stable. It was sitting up now, looking much better. It kept making grateful sounds and touching her hands with its 4 arms. "I think it's trying to say thank you," she said to Jake. Jake nodded, but he was thinking about bigger things. "This changes everything, doesn't it? We're not alone anymore." The alien stood up slowly, moving to a control panel. It pressed several buttons, and the ship's lights got brighter. Then it turned to them and made a complex series of sounds while pointing at the stars. "I think it wants to take us somewhere," Ryan said. "Maybe to meet its people." Lisa looked at the alien, then at Jake. "Are we ready for that?" Jake thought about it for a moment. Humanity had always wondered if there was life out there among the stars. Now they knew the answer, and apparently they were good at helping it. "I guess we're about to find out," he said. The alien ship began to move, carrying the New Horizons crew toward a meeting that would change the galaxy forever. Behind them, the council ship followed at a distance, its crew trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Humans, it seemed, were not like other species. They were something new, something that the galaxy had never seen before, and that made them very dangerous indeed. Colonel Patricia Hayes stepped out of the transport shuttle and breathed in the fresh mountain air. The alien visitors behind her were not having the same pleasant experience. Their environmental suits were beeping with warnings, and their translator devices were working overtime to convert their panic into English. "The atmospheric readings are impossible," one of them said. It was Dr. Zethkara, the scientist who had been studying Earth from space. "How do you survive in this poison?" Patricia looked around at the beautiful forest that surrounded them. Pine trees reached up to a bright blue sky, and birds sang in the distance. A small stream bubbled nearby, and wildflowers dotted the ground with bright colors. "Poison?" she asked. "This is one of our national parks. People come here to relax." Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's lead scientist for the exchange program, checked his tablet. "The oxygen levels are at 21%, which is normal for us. The air contains the usual mix of nitrogen, oxygen, and trace gases. Nothing unusual. But the aliens were clearly in distress. Their suits were working hard to filter the air, and their medical monitors showed elevated stress levels. Lieutenant Commander Thies, the council observer, was taking notes as fast as he could. "The microbiology in the atmosphere is incredibly aggressive," he said. "Our suits are having trouble keeping up with the filtration requirements. How do your lungs not dissolve?" Patricia and Marcus exchanged glances. They had been briefed that the aliens might find Earth challenging, but they hadn't expected this level of reaction to ordinary air. Let's start with something simple, Patricia said. We'll just walk down this trail for a few minutes. It leads to a nice clearing where we can sit and talk. The aliens followed nervously, their suits making mechanical sounds as they worked to keep their occupants alive. Every few steps, one of them would stop and stare at something that seemed to terrify them. That plant, Dr. Zethkara pointed to. A common fern. It's releasing chemical compounds that would kill most species. How is it just growing here in the open? Marcus walked over to the fern and touched it gently. This is just a fern. They're everywhere on Earth, completely harmless. Harmless? The alien's voice rose to a near shriek. My sensors show it produces compounds that would shut down our nervous systems in seconds. Well, yeah, Marcus said, but only if you're not adapted to Earth's environment. Our bodies are used to these things. We've been living with them for millions of years. Security Chief Amanda Torres was walking ahead of the group, keeping watch for any dangers. She stopped suddenly and held up her hand. Bear, she said quietly, pointing to a large brown shape moving through the trees about 50 yards away. The aliens immediately went into panic mode. Their suits activated emergency protocols, and several of them started backing toward the shuttle. Predator alert, Thies announced. Massive life form detected. Initiating retreat procedures. Patricia shook her head. It's just a black bear. They're not dangerous if you leave them alone. Not dangerous? Dr. Zethkara's voice was getting higher. That creature weighs over 200 pounds and has natural weapons capable of tearing through most materials. How is that not dangerous? Amanda was still watching the bear, which was busy eating berries and ignoring the group completely. This one's pretty small, actually, and it's more afraid of us than we are of it. The bear looked up at them for a moment, then went back to its berries. After a few minutes, it wandered away into the deeper forest. It just left, Thies said in amazement. The predator ignored us and left. They usually do, Patricia said. Bears don't want to fight humans unless they have to. We're not their preferred prey. They continued walking, but the aliens were becoming more distressed by the minute. Their suits were working harder, and their medical readings were getting worse. The soil, Dr. Zethkara said suddenly. Oh no, the soil. She was looking at her scanner in horror. The device was showing readings that made no sense to any of them. What about the soil? Marcus asked. It's alive, she whispered. The entire ground is teeming with organisms that are actively trying to break down organic matter. How do you walk on this death trap? Marcus knelt down and picked up a handful of dirt. It was dark and rich, with small bugs crawling through it. This is good soil. Perfect for growing things. See all the earthworms? They're great for the ecosystem. The aliens watched in horror as Marcus let the soil run through his fingers. To them, he was handling a substance that should have eaten through his skin in seconds. The biological activity is off the charts, Dr. Zethkara said. Bacteria, fungi, parasites, decomposers. How is your hand not dissolving? Our skin is tough, Marcus said with a shrug. Plus, most of these organisms are beneficial. They help break down dead material and cycle nutrients back into the ecosystem. Amanda Torres was checking her watch. We've been out here for 30 minutes. How are your suits holding up? The aliens looked at their displays, and their panic increased. The filtration systems are at 60% capacity, Thies reported. We can't stay out here much longer. Patricia looked disappointed. We were hoping to show you the stream. The water is really clear, and there are fish in it. Fish? Dr. Zethkara sounded faint. Living creatures in the water? Of course, Marcus said. The stream is full of life. Trout, minnows, insects, plants. It's a complete ecosystem. The aliens were backing away from the stream now, their suits beeping more urgently. The water looked clean and fresh to the humans, but their scanners were showing something completely different. The water contains hundreds of different microorganisms, Dr. Zethkara said, and the fish. They're carriers for parasites that would kill us in minutes. Marcus walked to the stream and knelt down. Before anyone could stop him, he cupped his hands and took a drink of the water. The alien screamed. "No!" Thais shouted. "The contamination levels are lethal." Marcus wiped his mouth and smiled. "It tastes good, nice and cold." The aliens stared at him in shock. According to their instruments, he should have been dead within seconds of drinking the water. But he was standing there, completely healthy, asking if anyone wanted to see the fish. "This is impossible," Dr. Zethkara whispered. "No species can survive in conditions like this. The biological load alone should have killed your entire planet millions of years ago." Amanda Torres was getting concerned about the aliens' health. Their suits were working at maximum capacity, and their medical monitors were showing dangerous stress levels. "Maybe we should head back," she suggested. "You don't look so good." "Agreed," Thais said quickly. "We need to return to the shuttle immediately. Our environmental systems are failing." As they walked back, the aliens continued to document everything they saw. Every plant, every insect, every piece of normal Earth environment was recorded as a potential hazard. "The bird songs," Dr. Zethkara said suddenly. "They're not just communication. They're territorial warnings. This entire forest is a war zone." Patricia listened to the cheerful chirping of the birds. "They're just singing. It's pretty, isn't it? Pretty?" The alien's voice was full of disbelief. "They're announcing their readiness to fight to the death for resources. How do you find that relaxing?" By the time they reached the shuttle, the aliens were exhausted. Their suits had been working at full capacity for an hour, and their medical readings showed they were close to collapse. "1 hour," Thais said as he collapsed into his seat. "We lasted 1 hour in your safe environment." Patricia felt bad for them. "I'm sorry. We really thought this would be a nice, easy introduction to Earth." "Easy?" Dr. Zethkara was breathing hard inside her suit. "We just survived an expedition to the most dangerous place any of us have ever encountered. And you call this normal?" Marcus was reviewing the data from the alien suits. "According to your readings, we just walked through what you'd classify as a hazardous waste site." "Exactly," Thais said. "And you did it in just your natural skin, breathing the air directly into your lungs and drinking contaminated water. How are you not dead?" Amanda Torres was thinking about all the places on Earth that were much more dangerous than this peaceful forest. The desert, the ocean, the Arctic, the jungle. If the aliens couldn't handle a simple walk in the woods, how would they react to the really challenging parts of Earth? "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "Wait until they see what we consider dangerous." The shuttle lifted off, carrying the traumatized aliens back to their ship. Behind them, the forest continued its daily life, completely unaware that it had just been classified as a deathworld by the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Earth, it seemed, was much more terrifying than anyone had imagined. Dr. Stephen Clark stood in front of the council chambers, looking at the dozens of alien species that had gathered to hear his presentation. Some looked like walking trees, others like living crystals, and a few resembled giant butterflies. All of them were staring at him with expressions he couldn't quite read. "Today, I'm going to talk about human medicine," he began, clicking to his first slide. "Specifically, how we prevent and treat diseases." The aliens shifted nervously in their seats. They had heard rumors about human medical practices, but none of them were prepared for what they were about to learn. "Let's start with something simple," Stephen said. "Vaccines." He showed a picture of a small child getting a shot. The child was crying, but the nurse was smiling reassuringly. This is a 6-month-old human baby receiving her first round of vaccinations, Stephen explained. We inject her with weakened or dead versions of diseases that could kill her. The chamber erupted in shocked sounds. Several aliens made noises that their translators couldn't convert to English. Dr. Zithkara stood up from her seat. You deliberately inject poison into your children? She asked in horror. Not poison, Stephen said calmly. Vaccines. By exposing the immune system to a small, controlled amount of a disease, we teach the body how to fight it. Then, if the person encounters the real disease later, their body already knows how to defend itself. An alien that looked like a walking flower raised one of its appendages. But the risk of death ... is very small, Stephen finished. Much smaller than the risk of death from the actual diseases. Before vaccines, millions of humans died from diseases like smallpox and polio. Now, those diseases are almost extinct. The aliens were taking frantic notes. To them, deliberately exposing children to deadly diseases sounded like murder. Here's another example, Stephen continued, showing a new slide. This is a flu shot. Every year, millions of humans voluntarily receive injections of the influenza virus. Voluntarily? The crystal-like Elder Vostai spoke for the first time. They choose to be infected? They choose to be protected, Stephen corrected. The vaccine contains a dead version of the flu virus. It can't make them sick, but it teaches their immune system to recognize the real virus. Captain Nicole Turner stepped forward. She was a military doctor who had volunteered to share some of her experiences with combat medicine. I'd like to show you something, she said, rolling up her sleeve. Her arm was covered in scars from various injuries. This is from a training accident when I was 22. I broke my arm in 3 places. She showed an X-ray of the injury. The aliens gasped at the severity of the damage. The bone was shattered. She continued. In most species, this would mean permanent disability or death. But human bones can heal themselves if you set them properly. She showed another X-ray, taken 6 months later. The bone had completely healed, with only faint lines, showing where the breaks had been. The human body rebuilds itself, she explained. We have cells that specifically repair damage. Broken bones, torn muscles, even some organ damage can be fixed naturally. An alien that looked like a living gas cloud spoke up. But the pain during healing ... is considerable, Nicole admitted. But we've learned to manage pain. We have natural and artificial pain relievers, and we've developed techniques to help the body heal faster. Stephen showed his next slide. This brings us to human pain tolerance. We've discovered that humans can withstand levels of pain that would kill most other species. He showed a video of a human marathon runner. The person was clearly exhausted, sweating heavily, and struggling to keep moving. But they kept running. This human has been running for over 4 hours, Stephen explained. Her body is experiencing what we call hitting the wall, a state where the muscles are running out of energy and starting to break down. In most species, this would trigger an automatic shutdown to prevent death. The runner in the video stumbled, but kept going. She was clearly in pain, but she didn't stop. But humans can override these safety systems, Stephen continued. We can force our bodies to keep going, even when they're telling us to stop. It's dangerous, but it's also what allows us to survive in situations that would kill other species. Chief Engineer Brad Coleman had volunteered for the next demonstration. He walked to the center of the chamber, carrying a small medical kit. I'm going to show you how human immune systems work, he announced. Dr. Clark has prepared several samples of diseases that are common on Earth. The aliens immediately activated their emergency protocols. Several of them started backing away, and others began calling for medical assistance. Don't worry, Brad said with a smile. These diseases can't hurt you. Your species have never encountered them before, so you have no way to catch them. But for humans, they're just minor inconveniences. He opened the kit and took out a small vial of liquid. This contains the common cold virus. It causes symptoms like coughing, sneezing, and congestion. Most humans get it several times a year. Before anyone could stop him, Brad opened the vial and breathed in the contents. The alien screamed. "Medical emergency!" Dr. Zethkara shouted. "He's deliberately infected himself with a pathogen." Brad waited a moment, then shrugged. "I don't feel anything yet. It usually takes a day or two for symptoms to appear." "A day or two?" Elder Vostai's voice was filled with disbelief. "You're going to be sick for days? And you did this voluntarily?" "Oh, I'll be fine," Brad said casually. "I'll have a runny nose and maybe a cough for a week or so. Then my immune system will clear it up, and I'll be immune to this particular strain for a few months." He took out another vial. This one contains bacteria that cause food poisoning. It's what happens when humans eat contaminated food. The aliens were backing away even further now. Several of them had activated their emergency containment fields. "Please don't," Dr. Zethkara begged. "Your medical readings are already showing signs of infection from the first pathogen." Brad looked at the scanner she was pointing at him. "Yeah, my white blood cell count is going up. That's normal. It means my immune system is working." He opened the second vial and drank the contents. The aliens were beyond horrified now. To them, Brad had just committed suicide twice in the span of 5 minutes. "How long do you have to live?" one of them asked in a shaking voice. "About 60 more years, I hope," Brad said cheerfully. "Maybe 70 if I take care of myself. But the infections will be gone in a few days," Brad finished. "My body will kill the bacteria, flush out the toxins, and repair any damage. It's what human bodies do." Dr. Stephen Clark stepped forward again. "This is the key difference between humans and other species. Our bodies are designed to fight. Our immune systems are incredibly aggressive. They attack anything that doesn't belong in our bodies." He showed a microscopic image of human white blood cells attacking bacteria. The cells looked like tiny warriors, surrounding and destroying the invaders. "Other species have immune systems that focus on prevention," he continued. "They try to keep diseases out. Human immune systems focus on destruction. We let diseases in, then we kill them." The aliens were frantically updating their databases. Everything they thought they knew about biology was being rewritten. "The implications are staggering," Dr. Zethkara said quietly. "If human immune systems are this aggressive, what does that mean for beneficial bacteria?" "Good question," Stephen said. "Humans actually have trillions of bacteria living in our bodies. We call them our microbiome. They help us digest food, produce vitamins, and fight off harmful bacteria." "You have trillions of foreign organisms living inside you?" Elder Vostai sounded faint. "They're not foreign," Stephen corrected. "They're part of us. We've evolved together over millions of years. Without them, we'd die." The session continued for several more hours, with the aliens documenting every impossible aspect of human biology. They learned about the human ability to survive massive blood loss, the way human bones could heal stronger than before, and the incredible redundancy built into human organs. By the end of the day, the alien medical community had reached a unanimous conclusion. Humans were biologically impossible. "According to every known law of biology," Dr. Zethkara said in her final report, "humans should not exist. Their bodies are designed for constant warfare, both internal and external. They survive by fighting off threats that would kill any other species." Elder Vostai was reviewing the data with growing concern. If this is how they treat their own bodies, what does that say about how they'll treat their enemies? The question hung in the air like a threat. The galaxy was beginning to understand that Earth had produced something unprecedented, a species that thrived on conflict, even at the cellular level, and that terrified them more than anything they had ever encountered. Dr. Helen Rodriguez walked into the council chambers carrying a thick folder of case studies. The alien representatives had requested a presentation on human psychology, but she wasn't sure they were ready for what they were about to learn. Today, we're going to discuss how humans respond to trauma and stress, she began, setting up her presentation. But first, I need to explain something that might seem strange to you. She clicked to her first slide, showing a graph with an upward trend line. This shows the psychological development of humans who have experienced severe trauma. As you can see, many of them actually become stronger and more capable after the traumatic event. The aliens exchanged confused looks. Dr. Zethkara raised one of her appendages. "I'm sorry, but that can't be correct," she said. "Trauma damages the mind. It reduces capability and causes dysfunction." "Not in humans," Helen replied. "We call it post-traumatic growth." Many humans who survive terrible experiences report that they become more confident, more resilient, and more capable of handling future challenges. She showed a case study of a woman who had survived a car accident. This patient was in a coma for 3 weeks after her accident. When she woke up, she had to relearn how to walk and talk. Most species would consider this a tragedy that would define the rest of her life. The next slide showed the same woman 5 years later. She was running a marathon. Instead, she became an athlete. She said the accident taught her not to take her health for granted, and she wanted to see what her body could really do. Commander Tony Mitchell stepped forward. He was a military training instructor who had volunteered to explain human preparation. "Methods. I'd like to show you how we train our soldiers," he said, activating a video screen. The video showed young humans crawling through mud under barbed wire while explosions went off around them. They were clearly exhausted and afraid, but they kept moving. "This is basic training," Tony explained. "We deliberately put our soldiers through experiences that would be considered torture by most species." The aliens were horrified. Several of them started making distressed noises. "We make them run until they collapse," Tony continued. "We deprive them of sleep, food, and comfort. We subject them to loud noises, extreme temperatures, and constant stress." Elder Vostai spoke up. "This is barbaric." "How do they survive such?" "Treatment? That's the point," Tony said. "The ones who don't survive don't become soldiers. But the ones who do survive become incredibly tough and capable." He showed another video of the same soldiers 6 months later. They were performing complex operations under fire, working together perfectly as a team. "The training doesn't break them," Tony explained. "It makes them stronger. They learn that they can handle more stress than they thought possible." Dr. Karen White, a social anthropologist, joined the presentation. "This brings us to human recreational activities," she said. "The things humans do for fun." She showed a video of humans jumping out of an airplane with parachutes. "This is called skydiving," she explained. "Humans pay money to throw themselves out of aircraft at high altitude." The aliens stared in disbelief. "They do this voluntarily?" one of them asked. "For fun," Karen confirmed. "They say it's exciting and makes them feel alive." She showed more videos. Humans climbing vertical rock, faces diving deep underwater, and racing cars at dangerous speeds. "Humans actively seek out dangerous situations," she continued. "We have entire industries built around providing thrilling, risky experiences." The next video showed humans in a movie theater, watching a horror film. The audience was screaming and jumping in their seats, but they were clearly enjoying themselves. "We even create artificial dangers for entertainment," Karen said. "Horror movies, haunted houses, roller coasters, all designed to trigger fear responses. But why? Doctor, Seth Kara asked, why would any species deliberately frighten itself? Because we like the feeling, Karen said simply. The adrenaline rush, the sense of having survived something dangerous, the feeling of being fully alive. Dr. Helen Rodriguez took over again. This is the key to understanding human psychology. We don't just survive trauma, we seek it out. We use dangerous situations to test ourselves and prove our capabilities. She showed a study of human stress responses. Most species have a simple reaction to danger: fight, flight, or freeze. Humans have developed a fourth response: thrive. The graph showed how human performance actually improved under moderate stress. We perform better when we're challenged. Too little stress makes us bored and lazy. Too much stress can overwhelm. US, but the right amount of stress makes us stronger and more capable. Commander Tony Mitchell showed another video, this one of human children playing. Even our young actively seek out challenges, he said. Children climb trees, jump off high places, and play games that simulate combat. The video showed kids playing tag, hide and seek, and other games that involve chasing and being chased. They're training themselves for danger, Tony explained. Play is how human children learn to handle stress and develop courage. The aliens were taking frantic notes. None of this matched their understanding of how intelligent species should develop. What about your artists and writers? Asked an alien that looked like a walking flower. Surely they focus on peaceful, beautiful things? Dr. Karen White smiled. Sadly, I'm afraid not. Human art is often about conflict, struggle, and overcoming challenges. She showed examples of human literature, stories about heroes fighting monsters, surviving disasters, and conquering impossible odds. Our most beloved. Stories are about characters who face terrible dangers and somehow find the strength to overcome them, she explained. We tell these stories to our children to teach them about courage and determination. The aliens were becoming more distressed by the minute. Everything about human psychology seemed designed for conflict and danger. But surely you have some. Peaceful activities? Elder Vastai asked hopefully. We do, Helen said. But even those often involve some form of challenge or competition. She showed videos of human sports: football, boxing, martial arts, and extreme sports. We compete against each other in contests that simulate warfare, she explained. We celebrate the winners and honor those who push themselves to their limits. Dr. Zethkara was studying her notes with growing alarm. The pattern is clear. She said, humans don't just survive in dangerous environments. They create dangerous environments when none exist. Exactly, Helen confirmed. We need challenge and stress to function properly. Without them, we become depressed and listless. She showed a study of humans in completely safe, comfortable environments. When we remove all danger and challenge from human lives, they actually become less healthy and less happy. The aliens were struggling to process this information. In their societies, safety and comfort were the ultimate goals. The idea that a species could be psychologically dependent on danger was almost incomprehensible. This explains so much, Commander Tony said. Why humans are so good at adapting to new situations. Why we're so resilient in the face of disaster. Why we keep pushing into unknown territories. We're not trying to survive, Dr. Helen added. We're trying to thrive. And we can only thrive when we're being challenged. The session continued for several more hours, with the aliens documenting every aspect of human psychology they could understand. They learned about human risk-taking behavior, the way humans bonded through shared danger, and the incredible mental resilience that allowed humans to bounce back from almost any setback by the end of the day. The alien psychology community had reached a disturbing conclusion. Humans were psychologically built for war. Their entire mental architecture, is designed for conflict, Dr. Zethkara reported. They don't just tolerate danger, they require it for optimal functioning. Elder Vastai was reviewing the data with growing fear. If this is how they think, what happens when they encounter a real threat? The question echoed through the chambers. The galaxy was beginning to understand that Earth had produced a species that didn't just survive challenges, they actively hunted them down. There's something else, Dr. Helen said quietly. Something that might be even more disturbing. She showed a final slide with brain scans of humans in various situations. These scans show human brain activity during different types of stress. Notice how the areas associated with problem-solving and creativity light up during dangerous situations. The scans showed brains that were more active during crisis than during peaceful times. Humans are literally more intelligent when they're in danger, she explained. Stress doesn't shut down our thinking. It makes us think faster and more creatively. The aliens sat in stunned silence. They had just learned that humans were not only psychologically built for conflict, but that they actually became smarter and more capable when facing threats. This is why they're so good at adaptation, Dr. Zethkara whispered. They don't just survive change, they use it to become better. Elder Vastai made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. We need to convene an emergency session of the full council. The other species need to know what we're dealing with. As the aliens filed out of the chambers, they carried with them the terrifying knowledge that Earth had produced the first species in galactic history that was psychologically optimized for warfare. And worse yet, these humans seemed to enjoy it. The great council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from over 300 species had gathered to hear the final report on Earth. Elder Vastai stood at the center of the massive room, his crystal form reflecting the lights from dozens of different types of alien technology. Ambassador Claire Johnson sat in the human section, surrounded by her small team of advisors. She had no idea that the galaxy's most powerful civilizations were about to decide the fate of her entire species. We have completed our evaluation of the planet Earth and its dominant species, Elder Vastai began. What we have discovered challenges everything we thought we knew about intelligent life. The chamber fell silent. Even the translators seemed to pause, as if they too were waiting to hear the verdict. The humans of Earth represent a completely new type of intelligent species, he continued. They have evolved on what we can only classify as a death world, and this has shaped them in ways we never imagined possible. Dr. Zethkara stepped forward with a scientific report. The evidence is overwhelming. Humans are biologically, psychologically, and culturally adapted for constant warfare. They thrive in conditions that would kill any other known species. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's environment. Their planet is a nightmare of aggressive biology, extreme weather, and constant environmental hazards. Any other species would have gone extinct millions of years ago. The display showed images from the forest expedition, with highlights marking every danger the aliens had identified. This is what humans consider a peaceful, relaxing environment. Our teams could barely survive there for 1 hour. Admiral Scott Barnes had just arrived with the human defense fleet. He wasn't there to threaten anyone, but his ships represented something the galaxy had never seen before. They were built like weapons, designed to survive and keep fighting, even when severely damaged. The human military vessels are unlike anything in our databases, reported the Council's military analyst. They prioritize survival over efficiency, durability over speed. They're built to keep fighting even when they should be destroyed. One of the alien representatives, a being that looked like a living cloud, spoke up. What are their intentions? Are they planning to conquer the galaxy? Ambassador Claire Johnson stood to respond. We have no plans to conquer anyone. We're explorers, not conquerors. We're interested in learning about the galaxy and finding our place in it. But her words didn't reassure the aliens. They had seen the data. They knew what humans were capable of. The problem, Elder Vostai said quietly, is not what you plan to do. It's what you are. He showed the psychological profiles that Dr. Helen Rodriguez had compiled. Humans actively seek out conflict and danger. You require challenge to function properly. What happens when you run out of challenges on your own world? The question hung in the air like a threat. The aliens were beginning to understand that humans might not choose to be aggressive. They might not be able to help it. Dr. Peter Grant, Earth's leading astronomer, stepped forward with his own presentation. Actually, I think you're asking the wrong question. The real question is, why are we the first ones you've met? He activated his own display, showing a star map of the galaxy. Earth isn't unique. Our surveys have identified at least 40 other worlds with similar conditions. Planets that are just as dangerous, just as hostile to life. The aliens stared at the map in horror. 40 more Deathworlds, potentially harboring 40 more species like humans. The reason you've never encountered a species like us before, Peter continued, is because we're the first Deathworld species that survived long enough to reach the stars. The others either went extinct or are still developing. He zoomed in on several of the marked worlds. This one has gravity 3 times stronger than Earth's. This one has an atmosphere that's constantly on fire. This one is covered in oceans of liquid metal. The implications were staggering. The galaxy wasn't just dealing with one impossible species. It was potentially dealing with dozens of them. But here's the thing, Peter said with a slight smile. We're also the first Deathworld. Species you've met, that's peaceful. We've learned to work together, to solve problems without destroying each other. He showed images of human cities, human art, human families. Yes, we're tough. Yes, we're adapted for conflict. But we're also capable of incredible cooperation and creativity. Admiral Scott Barnes spoke up. The reason our ships are built like weapons is because we expect the universe to be dangerous. We're not planning to attack anyone. We're planning to survive whatever we encounter. The aliens were starting to understand. Humans weren't necessarily aggressive. They were prepared. They had learned to be ready for anything because their world had taught them that anything could happen. There's more, Dr. Peter Grant continued. Our analysis of deep space signals suggests that there are things out there that are truly dangerous. Things that have destroyed entire civilizations. He showed faint radio signals that Earth's telescopes had detected. These signals come from dead systems, places where advanced civilizations used to exist. Something killed them, and it's still out there. The chamber erupted in concerned chatter. The aliens had always assumed they were safe in their peaceful corner of the galaxy. The idea that something was hunting civilizations was terrifying. This is why the galaxy needs us, Ambassador Claire Johnson said, standing to address the full council. Not because we're peaceful, but because we're survivors. We're the species that's designed to fight when fighting is necessary. Elder Vostai was reviewing all the data one final time. The evidence was clear. Humans were terrifying, but they might also be exactly what the galaxy needed. The council will now vote, he announced. Do we welcome Earth into the galactic community, or do we classify them as a threat to be contained? The vote was closer than anyone expected. Some species wanted to quarantine Earth immediately. Others argued that humanity's unique abilities might be valuable. A few suggested that trying to contain humans might be more dangerous than accepting them. In the end, the deciding factor was the deep space signals. The evidence that something was hunting civilizations was too strong to ignore. The galaxy needed protectors, and humans were the first species they had met that seemed capable of protecting anything. The vote is decided, Elder Vostai announced. Earth will be welcomed into the galactic community, but with conditions. He outlined the terms. Humans would be allowed to join the galactic community, but they would also be expected to serve as the galaxy's defense force. Their ships would patrol the dangerous areas of space, and their soldiers would be the first line of defense against any threats. "You are the first Deathworld species to reach the stars," he told Ambassador Johnson. "That makes you our best hope for survival against whatever killed the others." Ambassador Claire Johnson accepted the terms on behalf of humanity. Earth would join the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians. They would be the ones who stood between civilization and the darkness that lurked in the void. As the council session ended, the aliens began to understand that Earth's arrival marked the beginning of a new era. For the first time in galactic history, they had allies who were actually designed for war. The galaxy was still terrified of humans, but they were learning to be grateful for that terror. Sometimes the most frightening ally was exactly what you needed to survive. And in the deep space between the stars, something ancient and hungry had noticed the emergence of a new species. Something that had destroyed countless civilizations was now turning its attention toward Earth and its new galactic friends. The real test of humanity's abilities was about to begin. The galaxy was about to learn whether their new guardians were as tough as they seemed, or if they would join the list of civilizations that had simply vanished into the darkness. But for now, Earth had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as the species that stood ready to fight when no one else could. The Deathworld had finally met the galaxy, and both sides were about to discover what they were truly capable of together.